Hello viewers, welcome to part 6. Link to part 1 up to 5 is linked above and in the description. Before we begin, we would love for you to be part of our family. Subscribe today and turn on the bell notification. Now enjoy. Darasimi, Tunde, and Ido moved swiftly through the dimly lit backstreets, their hearts pounding. Lagos never slept, but tonight, it felt like the shadows themselves were watching them. Where are we going? Ido asked, glancing over his shoulder. I have a safe house on the mainland, Tunde replied. We can lay low there until we figure out our next move. As they approached the intersection, a black SUV screeched to a halt in front of them. The doors flew open, and armed men in dark suits jumped out. Run! Darasimi shouted, grabbing Tunde's wrist and bolting down the nearest alley. Ido followed closely, his breath ragged. Gunshots rang out behind them, the sound slicing through the night. A bullet struck a metal dumpster, sending sparks flying. Tunde yanked open a side door to an abandoned building. In here. They rushed inside, slamming the door shut. The air was thick with dust, and the wooden floor creaked under their weight. They're not giving up, Ido panted. We need a real plan. Darasimi pressed her back against the wall, forcing herself to think. They had exposed Jide, but now they were the hunted. We don't just run, she said firmly. We fight back. Tunde peeked through a crack in the boarded-up window. The men outside were searching the area, their flashlights slicing through the darkness. He turned to Darasimi and Ido, his face tense. They won't leave until they find us. We need to create a distraction. Darasimi nodded. I have an idea. If we split up, they'll have to divide their forces. Ido hesitated. That's risky. What if they catch one of us? Then we make sure that doesn't happen, Tunde said. Ido, you go out the back. Darasimi and I will exit through the side and draw their attention. Ido took a deep breath and gave a sharp nod. All right. Let's do this. As they moved, the tension was suffocating. Darasimi's pulse raced, but she kept her movements steady. The moment they slipped out, the men spotted them. Over there. Gunfire erupted as they sprinted down the alley. Tunde grabbed Darasimi's hand and pulled her into another street. Keep moving. A car screeched to a halt ahead of them. A familiar voice called out, Get in. It was Io. Without hesitation, they jumped inside, the car speeding off into the night. Darasimi turned to Io, her eyes filled with questions. How did you find us? Io's grip on the steering wheel tightened. Because I know who's after you. And if we don't act fast, none of us will make it out alive. Io kept his eyes on the road, his jaw clenched. The tires screeched as he took a sharp turn, trying to put as much distance as possible between them and their pursuers. Darasimi turned in her seat, her heart still hammering. Who are they, Io? And why are they after us? Io exhaled sharply. They work for someone powerful, someone who doesn't want Tunde alive. Tunde sat forward. Why? I need answers. Io gripped the wheel tighter. Because you saw something you shouldn't have. The attack on your company. It wasn't random. They were covering something up. Tunde's mind raced. He had barely escaped that night, but he never thought it was deliberate. So, you're saying it was an inside job? Io nodded. And the people behind it will do anything to keep their secrets buried. Ido, still catching his breath, spoke up. So, what do we do now? Io glanced at Darasimi through the rearview mirror. First, we make sure they can't track us. Then, we find out who's really pulling the strings. But be ready, because once we start, there's no turning back. Darasimi felt the weight of Io's words settle in her chest. There really was no turning back now. Tunde clenched his fists. We can't just keep running. I need to know who's after me and why. Io's eyes remained on the road. We're not just running. We're planning. We need to get somewhere safe first. Ido shifted uneasily. Safe? Is there anywhere truly safe from people like this? Io took another sharp turn, slowing the car as they approached an old warehouse on the outskirts of the city. For now, this will do. Get inside. Darasimi hesitated. And then what? What's the next move? Io looked her straight in the eyes. We find out exactly who's pulling the strings. And we hit them where it hurts. Tunde nodded. Then let's start digging. If they think I'm just going to lie down and accept my fate, they've underestimated me. Darasimi swallowed hard, knowing the danger ahead. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just about Tunde anymore. They were all in this together. The warehouse was dimly lit, the air thick with dust and tension. Darasimi hugged her arms as she took in the surroundings. It felt like the kind of place where secrets thrived. Io pulled out his phone, scanning for any updates. We don't have much time. If they know we're still in Lagos, they'll come looking. Tunde sat on a crate, running a hand through his hair. Then let's not wait for them to find us. Let's make the first move. Ido crossed his arms. How? We don't even know who we're up against. Io's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his expression darkening. We might have a lead. There's a man high up in the chain. If we can get to him, we can get answers. Darasimi stepped forward. Where is he? Io met her gaze. A private club. Exclusive members only. Tunde smirked. Then we better find a way to get in. Darasimi's stomach twisted. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. But there was no turning back now. They had to see this through. Darasimi adjusted the fitted dress Io had handed her. The fabric clung to her in ways she wasn't used to, and the high heels made her steps uncertain. She wasn't the kind of woman who dressed for high society, but tonight, she had to be. Io fastened his cufflinks, looking every bit the wealthy businessman he was pretending to be. You remember the plan? Darasimi took a deep breath. Get in, locate the man, and don't draw attention. Tunde grinned. And if anything goes wrong, we improvise. The club's entrance gleamed under golden lights, the guards dressed in tailored suits. Io slipped the bouncer a crisp bill, and within seconds, they were inside. The music thrummed, low and seductive. A chandelier sparkled overhead, and the scent of expensive cologne mixed with the aroma of fine liquor. Darasimi's heart pounded as she scanned the room. Ido leaned closer. There, by the bar. A man in a navy blue suit sipped his drink, his eyes scanning the crowd with calculated ease. Their target. Io nodded. Let's move. As they stepped forward, Darasimi forced a smile, ignoring the fear tightening her chest. This was their only chance to get answers. Darasimi steadied her breath as they approached the man at the bar. His sharp eyes flickered toward them, and for a brief moment, she wondered if he already knew who they were. Io took the lead. Excuse me, mind if we join you? The man smirked and gestured to the empty seats beside him. By all means. But I doubt you're here for a casual drink. Darasimi felt the tension rise. He was sharp, too sharp. She placed her hands on the bar to keep them from trembling. We're looking for information. About the warehouse near Ikoyi. The man's expression didn't change, but his grip on his glass tightened slightly. And why would I have anything to do with that? Tunde leaned in. Because we know you do. And we know what's been happening there. A dangerous silence hung between them. Then, the man chuckled, swirling his drink. You're brave. I'll give you that. But bravery can get people killed. Io's jaw tightened. We're not leaving without answers. The man exhaled, then leaned closer. Then let's talk somewhere more private. But I warn you, you might not like what you hear. Darasimi felt the air shift. They were stepping deeper into something dangerous, and there was no turning back now. Darasimi followed the man through the dimly lit corridor of the bar, Io and Tunde close behind. Her heart pounded in her chest. Every step she took felt like a descent into the unknown. The man led them into a small, private lounge at the back of the building. He shut the door behind them and gestured for them to sit. All right. You wanted answers. Let's get straight to it. Io crossed his arms. We know something illegal is happening at that warehouse. People are being taken there against their will. The man scoffed. And what exactly do you plan to do about it? You think you can just walk in there and play hero? Darasimi met his gaze, her voice steady. We just want the truth. Who's behind it? The man hesitated, then leaned forward. You don't understand what you're getting yourselves into. The people running that operation, they're powerful. Dangerous. If they find out you're sniffing around, you'll disappear. Tunde's fists clenched. Then tell us what you know. We'll handle the rest. The man studied them for a long moment, then sighed. Fine. But if you're serious about this, you better be ready for what comes next. Because once I tell you, there's no going back. Darasimi exchanged glances with Io and Tunde. The choice had already been made. They were in this now, and there was no turning back. The room fell into a heavy silence after the man's warning. Darasimi's mind raced. What kind of power did these people have that even speaking their names seemed dangerous? Io leaned forward, his voice low but firm. We're not backing out now. If you know something, tell us. The man exhaled sharply, rubbing his forehead. All right. There's a syndicate operating in that warehouse. Human trafficking, illegal trade, you name it. The boss. Nobody knows his real name. People just call him the Shadow. He's untouchable. Even the police stay clear of him. Darasimi swallowed hard. How do we stop him? The man laughed bitterly. Stop him? You don't stop the Shadow. People who try disappear without a trace. If you're smart, you'll walk away. Forget you ever saw anything. Tunde's jaw tightened. That's not an option. We have to do something. The man studied them, then shook his head. If you insist on playing heroes, I can point you in the right direction. But once you cross that line, you'll have enemies everywhere. You sure you're ready for that? Darasimi looked at Io and Tunde. Fear gnawed at her, but she couldn't ignore what she'd seen. Lives were at stake. She took a deep breath. Tell us everything. We're ready. The night was darker than usual as Darasimi, Io, and Tunde approached the abandoned warehouse. Every instinct in Darasimi's body screamed at her to turn back, but she clenched her fists. People were suffering inside that place. She couldn't walk away now. Io tapped his phone screen, revealing a rough sketch of the warehouse layout. There's a side entrance. Less guarded. We get in, gather evidence, and get out. No unnecessary risks. Tunde scoffed. Since when has anything we've done been risk-free? Darasimi shot him a look. Let's just focus. They moved quickly, staying close to the shadows. As they neared the entrance, they heard footsteps. A guard. He stopped just a few meters away, his flashlight sweeping across the area. Darasimi held her breath, heart pounding. The light hovered near them for a moment, then moved on. Io exhaled softly. Let's go. They slipped inside, the air thick with the smell of damp wood and something foul. The faint sound of muffled cries sent a chill down Darasimi's spine. Tunde pointed toward a row of cages. There. Io pulled out his phone and started recording. We need solid proof. Darasimi moved closer, gripping the bars of one cage. Inside, a terrified girl no older than 12 stared back at her. Tears welled up in Darasimi's eyes. We're getting you out. I promise. But before she could say another word, a deafening alarm blared through the warehouse. They had been caught. The alarm was a piercing wail that sent Darasimi's heart racing. The terrified captives in the cages flinched at the noise, their eyes wide with fear. Io swore under his breath, stuffing his phone into his pocket. We have to move. Tunde spun around, already looking for an escape route. They'll be swarming this place in seconds. We need a plan, fast. Darasimi scanned the room, her mind working furiously. The only way out was the way they came in. But now, that way was no longer safe. Footsteps thundered from the main entrance, voices shouting orders. Then, she saw it. A narrow vent near the ceiling, just large enough for them to squeeze through. Up there, she pointed, running toward a stack of crates. Climb up. Io didn't hesitate, hoisting himself onto the crates. Tunde followed, but Darasimi turned back to the cages. The young girl she had promised to free was still staring at her, clinging to the bars. "We'll come back for you," she whispered, voice cracking. It felt like a betrayal, but if they got caught now, they'd never be able to help anyone. Io reached down, gripping Darasimi's hand and pulling her up just as the first of the guards burst into the room. Gunfire echoed, splintering the wooden crates below them. They crawled through the vent, hearts pounding, hands scraping against the metal as they moved as fast as they could. "This better lead outside," Tunde muttered. "Just keep going," Darasimi urged, pushing forward. Behind them, the guards shouted, their voices muffled by the vent walls. Then, a new sound sent a jolt of fear through Darasimi. One of the guards had found the vent entrance. And they weren't just looking. They were climbing in after them. The alarm's piercing sound rattled Darasimi's bones as she scrambled to think. The heavy boots of approaching guards thundered through the warehouse, their shouts echoing off the metal walls. "We have to move, now," Io hissed, grabbing Darasimi's wrist. Tunde was already pulling at a stack of wooden crates near the back. "Help me with this. There's a vent behind." Darasimi and Io rushed over, pushing and shoving the crates aside with frantic energy. The first guard burst into view, raising his flashlight just as Io yanked open the vent cover. "Get in," Tunde barked. Darasimi shoved herself into the tight space, heart hammering as she pulled herself forward. Io crawled in right behind her, followed by Tunde, who barely made it before gunshots rang out, striking the metal behind them. "Keep going," Io urged, pushing Darasimi ahead as the vent rattled from the impact. The passage was narrow, the air thick with dust. Darasimi coughed as she wriggled forward, her knees scraping against the rough surface. A dim light appeared ahead. "There's an opening," she whispered breathlessly. Tunde reached it first, kicking at the flimsy grate until it popped free. He dropped down into a dark alley, immediately scanning for danger before helping the others down. The moment their feet hit the ground, the warehouse door burst open. Guards flooded out, weapons raised. "Run!" Darasimi shouted, sprinting into the night. With adrenaline pumping, they raced down the alley, dodging piles of trash and leaping over broken crates. The sounds of pursuit grew fainter as they twisted through side streets, their lungs burning with exertion. Finally, they reached a hidden passage near an old mechanic shop. Tunde doubled over, panting. That was way too close. Io clutched his side. "We need a new plan. They'll be looking for us now." Darasimi, still catching her breath, looked back toward the distant glow of the warehouse. "We're not giving up. We'll expose them. We just need to be smarter about it." Their mission was far from over. The sound of heavy boots pounded against the concrete floor as Darasimi, Io, and Tunde darted through the maze of crates and metal shelves. The alarm continued to wail, sending an eerie echo through the massive warehouse. "We need an exit. Now," Io hissed, scanning the area frantically. Darasimi spotted a staircase leading up to a metal catwalk. "There. If we get to the rafters, we can make it to the other side." Tunde didn't hesitate. "Move." They sprinted up the stairs two at a time, the rusty structure groaning under their weight. Below them, several armed guards burst into the warehouse, shouting orders. One pointed in their direction, and a bullet whizzed past, striking a crate beside them. Splinters flew. Darasimi swallowed a scream. Her heart was hammering so hard it felt like it would burst. "Keep moving," Tunde urged. They reached the top, balancing precariously on the thin metal walkway. Io glanced over his shoulder. "We need to jump." The window on the far side. Darasimi hesitated for only a second before pushing forward. There was no turning back. As she reached the edge of the catwalk, She took a deep breath and leaped. Glass shattered as her body crashed through the window. She hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Pain shot up her arm, but she forced herself to her feet just as Io and Tunde landed beside her. "Go!" Io shouted. They ran into the darkness, sirens wailing behind them. The night swallowed them whole, but Darasimi knew the fight was far from over. Darasimi's breath came in ragged gasps as she sprinted down the dimly lit corridor, the alarm still blaring behind her. Io and Tunde were right on her heels, their faces set with determination. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the warehouse. Their time was running out. "This way," Tunde whispered harshly, pointing towards a narrow door at the far end of the corridor. He slammed his shoulder against it, and the rusted hinges gave way with a groan. They stumbled into another room, dark and filled with crates stacked high against the walls. The muffled cries of captives were louder here. Darasimi's heart clenched. They couldn't leave these people behind. "We have to get them out," she said, moving towards the first cage. The young girl from earlier looked up at her with wide, fearful eyes. "I promised you, didn't I?" Darasimi whispered. Io pulled out a crowbar he had swiped from a nearby workbench and began prying open the locks. One by one, the cages burst open, their captives stepping out cautiously, eyes darting toward the door where the guards would soon storm in. "We need an exit plan. Now," Tunde urged, scanning the room. Io's eyes flicked to the ventilation shaft above them. "That might be our best bet." Darasimi turned to the terrified captives. "Follow us. Stay quiet. We'll get you out." One by one, they climbed into the vent, crawling through the tight space, their breaths shallow with fear. Just as Darasimi pulled herself up, the door below burst open. A guard spotted them, raising his gun. A shot rang out. Darasimi gasped, her grip slipping. Had someone been hit? Io grabbed her wrist, pulling her up just in time. "Keep moving," he hissed. They crawled faster, heartbeats racing as gunshots rang below. The warehouse was in chaos. Darasimi prayed they would make it out alive. As they neared the vents opening to the outside, fresh air filled Darasimi's lungs. Freedom was just within reach. But just as she was about to drop down, a strong hand grabbed her ankle. The moral of the story is that kindness, resilience, and hard work can change a person's destiny. Darasimi's selflessness in helping a stranger led to an unexpected opportunity, but it was her determination and perseverance that transformed her life. No matter where you come from, your attitude and effort can open doors you never imagined possible. Tell us where you are watching from and the time your watch says right now in the comment section. We would love to hear from you, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification. New series are coming very soon. Subscribe.